Get your broke self out of this lobby before we charge you for trespassing." The officer's command sliced through the air as guests froze mid-check-in at the Golden Haven Hotel. Amani Rivers didn't flinch. She stood firm behind the counter she'd built from the ground up, every inch of her radiating quiet power. To the cops and her scheming manager, she was just another black woman out of place. But the moment they cuffed her, the countdown began. By morning, the truth would explode. The staff would be fired, and their badges would be gone. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The morning sun streamed through the golden-tinted windows of the Golden Haven Hotel, casting warm patterns across the polished marble floor. Amani Rivers moved through her lobby with quiet grace, her heels clicking softly against the stone. She wore a cream-colored blazer with a golden silk scarf, her signature touch that matched the hotel's elegant aesthetic. "Good morning, Mrs. Peterson." Amani smiled warmly at an elderly guest who was a regular visitor. "I trust you slept well?" "Like a dream, as always," Mrs. Peterson beamed. "Your new mattresses are heaven-sent." Amani made her way to the front desk, where Gloria James was humming an old gospel tune while carefully polishing the brass fixtures. Her weathered hands moved with practiced care over every surface until it gleamed. "Those door handles have never looked better, Gloria," Amani said, touching the older woman's shoulder gently. Gloria's eyes crinkled with pride. "Can't have anything less than perfect in our house, Ms. Rivers." Behind the desk, Logan Shaw stood stiffly, his pressed suit as rigid as his posture. His fingers tapped impatiently on the computer keyboard as he pointedly ignored their exchange. Amani noticed his jaw clench. It happened whenever she referred to the hotel as ours. Settling into her office just off the lobby, Amani opened her laptop. A notification caught her eye. A new 5-star review had just posted online. She clicked it open, satisfaction warming her chest as she read, "The Golden Haven isn't just a hotel. It's an experience in excellence. From the impeccable service to the gorgeous decor, every detail speaks of quality and care. A crown jewel of Savannah hospitality." Pride swelled in her heart. This was what her father had dreamed of when he'd worked as a porter in this very building 60 years ago. Now his daughter owned it, had transformed it into one of downtown's most prestigious addresses. A sharp knock interrupted her thoughts. Logan Shaw stood in her doorway, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Ms. Rivers, I wanted to discuss our appearance standards again," he said, closing the door behind him. "Some of our housekeeping staff are wearing rather ethnic hairstyles. I'm concerned about maintaining our professional image." Amani's face remained perfectly composed, though her stomach tightened. "Our staff's natural hair is professional, Mr. Shaw. We've been through this before. Our clientele has certain expectations. Yes, they expect excellent service, which they receive." Amani cut him off smoothly. "Was there anything else?" Logan's nostrils flared slightly. "The weekend numbers—" He was interrupted by heavy footsteps in the hallway. Deshaun Rivers appeared in the doorway, his broad shoulders filling the frame. Despite his crisp suit, his military bearing was evident in his straight spine and alert eyes. "Morning, Mama," he said, then nodded curtly to Logan. "Mr. Shaw." "Deshaun," Amani smiled. "How were the vendor meetings?" "Productive. Our new linen suppliers' prices are better, and their quality's just as good." He placed a folder on her desk, positioning himself slightly between her and Logan. "The restaurant's produce delivery had some issues, though. I'll brief you later." Logan cleared his throat. "Well, I should return to the front. We're expecting the Thompson wedding party soon." He retreated, his shoes clicking rapidly across the floor. Deshaun watched him go, his expression dark. "I don't trust that man, Mama." "Neither do I, baby." Amani sighed. But he knows his job, and he brings in business. He brings in a certain kind of business, Deshawn muttered. Amani stood and walked to her office window, which overlooked the lobby. Gloria was now arranging fresh flowers, their sweet scent drifting through the air. A young black couple was checking in, the woman admiring the crystal chandelier, while their little girl twirled on the patterned carpet. "This is what matters," Amani said softly. "When I was that child's age, we couldn't even stay in hotels like this. Now she can see someone who looks like her owning one." Movement near the elevators caught her eye. Logan was speaking in low tones with a man in an expensive gray suit. Something about their body language made her instincts prickle. The way they stood too close, how Logan's hand partially concealed their handshake, the quick glance around before they parted. The man in the gray suit walked briskly toward the entrance. As he passed through a shaft of morning sunlight, Amani's breath caught. She recognized the silver hair, the confident stride, the artificial smile. Councilman Walter Reeve, chairman of the Urban Renewal Committee. The same man who'd been in the news last month, praising the revitalization of the historic Grayson Street neighborhood. The same neighborhood where 3 black-owned businesses had mysteriously lost their leases before being bought out by developers. Deshawn stepped up beside her. "Mama, you okay?" Amani watched Reeve disappear through the revolving door, her reflection in the window glass showing no trace of her unease. "I'm fine, baby. Just fine." The lobby buzzed with activity as the Teachers Association convention brought waves of retired educators through the Golden Haven's doors. Their animated chatter about educational reform and memorable classroom moments filled the air, mixing with the soft classical music playing through hidden speakers. Gloria James stood near the entrance, helping an elderly black delivery man who was slumped on one of the lobby's plush benches. His uniform was dark with sweat from hours of working in the Georgia heat. She held a glass of ice water to his trembling hands. "Take your time, Mr. Washington," Gloria said softly, her motherly concern evident. "This heat's no joke today." The driver nodded gratefully, sipping the water. "Thank you, ma'am. Just need a minute. Been delivering since dawn." "You delivered our linens right on schedule," Gloria assured him. "Least we can do is offer some water and rest." The peaceful moment shattered as Logan Shaw's voice cut through the lobby like a whip. "What is this?" He stormed across the marble floor, his face flushed with anger. "We're not running a homeless shelter." Gloria straightened her spine. "Mr. Washington is our linen delivery driver, Mr. Shaw. He's just... I don't care who he claims to be." Logan's voice rose, drawing attention from nearby guests. "This is a 4-star hotel, not some street corner rest stop. Get him out." Mr. Washington struggled to his feet, dignity warring with exhaustion on his weathered face. "I'm going, sir. Don't want no trouble." "Logan!" Amani's voice rang out clear and firm as she emerged from her office. The lobby fell quiet as she crossed the floor, her heels striking a measured rhythm against the marble. "That's enough." "Ms. Rivers," Logan turned, his lips curling. "This is a security issue. We can't have random people lounging in our lobby." "Mr. Washington has been delivering our linens for 3 years," Amani said evenly. "He's a valued partner of this business, and Gloria was right to offer him water on a day like today." She turned to the driver. "Please, sir, take your time. You're welcome here." Logan's face darkened. "You don't make those decisions. I'm the general manager, and I say he needs to leave." He stepped closer to Amani, lowering his voice to a hiss. "And you need to stop undermining my authority." Several convention guests had their phones out now, recording the confrontation. Amani noticed, but kept her focus on Logan. "I expect you to apologize to both Mr. Washington and Gloria. Now." "Apologize?" Logan barked out a laugh. I don't take orders from you. In fact, he pulled out his phone, fingers jabbing at the screen. Yes, police? We have a situation at the Golden Haven Hotel. An aggressive woman is threatening our staff and refusing to leave the premises. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Gloria's hand flew to her mouth. Mr. Shaw, you can't. She's becoming hostile. Logan continued into the phone, his eyes locked on Amani's. We need officers immediately. He hung up and smiled coldly. Now we'll see who really runs this place. Amani stood perfectly still, her heart pounding but her face composed. Gloria, please help Mr. Washington to the staff room. Mr. Shaw, you're making a serious mistake. The only mistake was letting you think you belonged behind that desk, Logan sneered. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The convention guests murmured, more phones appearing to record the scene. Through the golden-tinted windows, red and blue lights began to flash. 3 officers burst through the revolving door, 2 men and a woman. The larger male officer, Brent Klein, immediately moved toward Amani, while Sergeant Vance Heller approached Logan. Officer Dana Rourke hung back, her hand resting uneasily on her belt. What's the situation here? Heller demanded, though his eyes had already settled on Amani with familiar prejudice. Logan pointed dramatically. This woman is disturbing our guests and refusing to leave when asked. She's been aggressive and hostile, Logan finished, his professional mask firmly in place. We need her removed. I am Amani Rivers, the owner of this hotel, Amani stated clearly, reaching for her purse. I can show you. Officer Klein's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with bruising force. Stop right there. I'm just getting my ID. Amani's words cut off in a gasp as Klein twisted her arm behind her back. Stop resisting, he shouted, though Amani hadn't moved. The marble counter rushed up to meet her face as Klein slammed her forward. The sickening crack of her glasses breaking mixed with the horrified screams of guests. Camera flashes erupted like lightning throughout the lobby. Phones recorded every second as Officer Rourke moved in, pressing her knee into Amani's back while Klein kept her pinned. She's not resisting! Gloria's voice rose above the chaos. Please, she owns this hotel. This is Ms. Rivers. Sure she does, Sergeant Heller drawled, watching with satisfaction. And I'm the Queen of England. Blood trickled from where Amani's cheek had split against the counter, staining her cream-colored blouse. She remained still, her breathing measured despite the weight crushing her lungs. Years of civil rights work had taught her the dangers of panic in moments like this. Mom! Deshawn's voice boomed through the lobby as he burst through the staff door. Get off her! That's my mother! Stay back! Heller barked, drawing his taser. Someone control him! 2 more officers rushed to intercept Deshawn, whose military training warred visibly with his instinct to protect his mother. She owns this building! He shouted, muscles straining as the officers grabbed his arms. Check her ID. Just check her ID. The crowd of teachers had grown larger, their phones recording everything. This is wrong, someone called out. She's telling the truth. Logan stood behind his desk, a slight smile playing at his lips as he watched Amani being handcuffed. Their eyes met, and in that moment, she saw past his professional veneer to the raw hatred beneath. You have the right to remain silent, Klein recited, yanking Amani roughly to her feet. Her glasses hung broken from one ear, blood dripping onto the pristine marble floor she'd walked so proudly across just minutes before. Gloria sobbed openly now, supported by Mr. Washington. Please, she begged. Ms. Rivers built this place. Her name's on everything. Just look at the pictures on the wall. But the officers weren't looking at anything except Amani as they marched her toward the door. The crowd parted, many still filming, others calling out in protest. Through the golden-tinted windows, the scene caught the attention of passers-by, who stopped to stare, and record. Amani kept her head high as they led her outside into the brutal Georgia sun. Her hotel's facade gleamed behind her, the golden glass panels her late husband had insisted on catching the midday light. The same light now illuminated her public humiliation for all to see. Officer Rourke opened the back door of the cruiser, avoiding eye contact as Amani was pushed inside. The leather seat stuck to her skin through her torn silk blouse, and the metallic taste of blood filled her mouth. Through the window, she watched her son still struggling with the officers, his face twisted in helpless rage. Gloria stood weeping on the steps, surrounded by angry guests. Logan appeared in the doorway, straightening his tie with satisfaction. The door slammed shut with a final thud. As the cruiser pulled away, Amani caught a last glimpse of her life's work in the rearview mirror. The Golden Haven Hotel stood proud against the blue sky, its sign catching the sunlight like a beacon. The same sunlight that had promised such hope that morning now bore witness to her shame. But even as the hotel receded from view, Amani's mind was already working, calculating, remembering. She thought of the surveillance cameras in the lobby, the dozens of witnesses with phone footage, the documentation in her office safe. Her face throbbed where it had met the counter, but her mind remained sharp. They'd chosen the wrong woman to humiliate. They'd chosen the wrong hotel to target. The cruiser turned a corner, and the Golden Haven disappeared from sight. But Amani Rivers sat straight-backed in the police car, her dignity intact despite her bonds. They'd taken her from her hotel in handcuffs, but they hadn't taken her power. Not yet. Not ever. "Watch your head," Officer Rourke muttered mechanically as they approached an intersection. Amani said nothing. The time for words would come later. For now, she watched her city pass by through the window, counting streets, noting faces, remembering every detail of this ride. The sun continued to shine brutally bright, as if determined to illuminate every moment of this injustice. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in the booking room, casting harsh shadows across Amani's face. Her wrists throbbed where the handcuffs had cut into her skin, but she kept her posture straight, her expression neutral. The metallic taste of blood lingered in her mouth from her split cheek. Two officers lounged against a nearby desk, making no effort to lower their voices. "Can you believe these people?" one snickered. "Always claiming to own something." "Yeah, next thing you know, she'll say she owns the whole city," the other replied, both laughing at their own joke. Amani's gaze remained fixed on the wall ahead, her mind cataloging every word, every sneer, every moment of this humiliation. The booking officer cleared his throat, tapping his pen impatiently against the desk. "Name?" he demanded again. Amani's voice came out steady and clear. "Look up your city tax records." "Listen, lady, we can do this the easy way, or—" The door burst open, and Jaya Patel strode in, her heels clicking sharply against the linoleum floor. Her tailored suit and fierce expression commanded immediate attention. A thick manila folder was clutched in her hand. "Remove those handcuffs from my client immediately," Jaya ordered, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Ma'am, this is a restricted area." Jaya slammed the folder onto the desk, papers spilling out across the surface. "These are the property deeds, business licenses, and tax records for the Golden Haven Hotel. My client, Amani Rivers, is the sole owner and proprietor." She spread out the documents one by one, her movements precise and deliberate. "Here's the certificate of occupancy. Here's last month's payment for your department's cleaning contract. And here," she tapped a particular document, "is the letter of commendation from your chief of police, thanking Ms. Rivers for hosting last year's police charity gala. Free of charge, I might add." The booking officer's face drained of color as he scanned the papers. The laughing officers had fallen silent, their smirks fading. Through the window, camera flashes punctuated the growing crowd of reporters outside. Sergeant Heller appeared in the doorway, his earlier confidence evaporating as he took in the scene. Officer Klein stood frozen behind him, hand unconsciously touching his body camera. "I want these cuffs off my client now," Jaya demanded. "Unless you'd like to explain to the press outside why you're continuing to detain a prominent business owner after assaulting her in her own establishment." The booking officer fumbled with his keys, hands shaking slightly as he removed Amani's handcuffs. She rubbed her wrists slowly, the angry red marks stark against her dark skin. "The captain would like to speak with you," Heller began, but Jaya cut him off. "Ms. Rivers will not be speaking to anyone. We're leaving. You'll be hearing from my office regarding the civil rights violations, assault, false arrest, and public humiliation of my client." The door opened again, and the captain himself hurried in, his face tight with concern. "Ms. Rivers, please accept our sincerest—" "Save it," Jaya interrupted. "Any statements will be made through proper channels. We're leaving now." Amani stood, straightening her blood-stained blouse with dignity. Her broken glasses hung useless from her pocket. Despite the growing bruise on her cheek and her disheveled appearance, she carried herself with unmistakable authority. The hallway to the exit seemed longer than it had coming in. Officers and staff stopped to stare as Amani and Jaya walked past, their whispers following like shadows. Through the glass doors, camera lights blazed, and reporters pressed forward. "Ms. Rivers," they called out, "do you have a statement?" Amani paused at the top of the police station steps, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and purple behind her. Her voice, when she spoke, carried clearly across the sudden hush. Sometimes silence is the loudest protest. The cameras erupted in flashes, capturing her bruised face, her torn clothing, her unwavering composure. Jaya guided her through the crowd to her waiting car, shielding her from the barrage of questions. Inside the vehicle's quiet interior, Amani finally allowed her shoulders to drop slightly. The leather seats were cool against her skin, so different from the harsh plastic chair in the booking room. Her phone buzzed in her purse, which Jaya had retrieved from the station. She pulled it out to find multiple notifications flooding her screen. At the top was a message from Eddie Chen, the investigative podcaster known for exposing corruption. He had posted the footage of her arrest, captured by dozens of phones in the hotel lobby. The video was already trending, shares and comments multiplying by the second. Amani watched the numbers climb as Jaya started the car. The sun sank lower on the horizon, casting long shadows across the city she'd called home all her life. The same city where she'd built her hotel from the ground up. The same city that had just witnessed her deepest humiliation, and would soon witness something else entirely. Her phone continued to buzz with incoming messages, but Amani let it rest in her lap. There would be time for responses later. For now, she sat in silence as Jaya navigated through the streets, away from the police station and its harsh fluorescent lights, away from the smirking officers and their casual cruelty. The bruise on her cheek throbbed in time with her heartbeat, a steady reminder of everything that had happened. But Amani Rivers had not survived decades of struggle by breaking easily. She had not built her hotel, her legacy, by backing down from fights. As the city lights began to flicker on around them, she closed her eyes briefly, gathering her strength for what was to come. The first rays of sunlight crept through Amani's bedroom window, painting golden stripes across her silk comforter. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing since 3 a.m. She reached for it, wincing as her bruised muscles protested the movement. Her face in the screen's reflection showed the angry purple mark spreading across her cheekbone. 57 missed calls, over 300 text messages, thousands of social media notifications. The video of her arrest had exploded overnight. Different angles from dozens of phones showed the full horror. Logan's smug call to police, the officer's immediate aggression, her face being slammed into the marble counter. The footage was crystal clear, damning in its detail. "Mom?" Deshawn's voice came through her closed door. "You need to see this." Amani wrapped herself in a robe and opened the door. Deshawn stood there holding his tablet, jaw tight with controlled anger. On the screen, CNN was running the footage on repeat. The headline burned across the bottom: "Black hotel owner arrested for trespassing in her own business." "It's everywhere," Deshawn said quietly. "Every major network." Amani sank into her armchair, scrolling through her phone. The American Association of Retired Persons had shared the video, their millions of followers outraged at the treatment of Gloria and the violence against a successful business owner. Civil rights organizations were calling for immediate action. Local black business groups had organized a protest outside the police station. "The hotel board is meeting at 7, Deshawn continued. "Emergency session. They want you on the call." Amani nodded, moving carefully to her closet. She chose her armor deliberately. A crisp white blazer, gold jewelry, perfectly pressed slacks. Her split lip made applying lipstick difficult, but she managed. The woman in the mirror looked powerful, despite her injuries, or perhaps because of them. At exactly 7 a.m., Amani sat at her home office desk, facing her laptop's camera. The board members' faces filled the screen, their expressions ranging from concern to barely contained fury. The chairman spoke first. "Ms. Rivers, on behalf of the entire board, we are appalled by yesterday's events. We've reviewed all security footage and witness statements. Mr. Shaw's actions were unconscionable. Logan Shaw is terminated, effective immediately." Another board member added, "We're announcing it to the press within the hour." Amani's phone pinged. The police department had issued a statement. All 3 officers involved were suspended pending investigation. Internal Affairs was launching a full review of arrest protocols. As the meeting continued, social media exploded again. Someone had uncovered photos of Councilman Reeve at the hotel the day before, huddled with Logan in the corner. Reeve's office quickly released a denial of any involvement, but the damage was done. Justice for Golden Haven was trending nationwide. After the call ended, Amani made her way downstairs. Deshawn had transformed the hotel's conference room into a command center, coordinating with staff and handling the media barrage. Guests were checking in specifically to show support. The lobby buzzed with activity. The senior teachers' convention voted to extend their stay, Deshawn reported. Said they won't let intimidation win. And 3 civil rights organizations booked our entire East Wing for next month. Gloria appeared with a cup of tea, her eyes still red from crying. "Those officers had no right," she said softly, setting the cup beside Amani. "No right at all." Amani squeezed Gloria's hand. "We're still here," she replied. "Still standing." Her phone rang. Unknown number. Amani answered, putting it on speaker out of habit. A distorted voice crackled through. "You should have just sold the hotel." Deshawn immediately began tracing the call, but the line went dead too quickly. The day continued in a blur of interviews declined, support messages answered, and operations stabilized. Amani watched her son handle each crisis with military precision, proud of his strength, but worried about the rage she saw simmering beneath his calm exterior. Evening brought a gentle purple sky and relative quiet. Most guests had retired to their rooms. Gloria was finishing her rounds, her cleaning cart loaded with fresh towels. Amani stood in the lobby, watching the street through the front windows, the same windows her father had cleaned by hand when this was just an old building with a dream attached. The crash came without warning, an explosion of glass and screaming. Gloria stumbled backward as a brick landed inches from her cart. shards of windows scattered across the marble floor like deadly diamonds. Deshawn vaulted over the front desk, racing to check the street while simultaneously calling security. Amani moved to Gloria first, making sure she wasn't hurt. Then she saw the note, tied to the brick with twine. The paper was expensive, the kind used for business letterhead. The message was typed, not handwritten. "Next time, it won't be glass." Amani picked up the brick, feeling its weight. The same weight as the countless obstacles she'd faced building this place, protecting this dream. The same weight as generations of people trying to tell her what she couldn't own, couldn't be, couldn't do. Gloria's hands shook as she gripped her cart. "Miss Amani, get the maintenance team," Amani said calmly, still holding the brick. "We'll need to board up the window tonight. Tomorrow we'll order new glass, stronger glass." Deshawn returned, security guards spreading out behind him. "Police are on their way. Different precinct this time." Amani nodded, watching the last light fade outside the broken window. She placed the brick on the front desk, the threatening note beside it. Evidence now. Proof of what they were willing to do, how far they would go to take what was hers. The next morning dawned gray and humid. Typical Savannah weather that made the air feel thick as soup. Amani arrived early, supervising the temporary boarding of the broken window. The maintenance team had worked through the night, cleaning every shard of glass, but the plywood covering looked exactly like what their attackers wanted, a sign of defeat. At precisely 8:47 a.m., 3 city vehicles pulled up outside the Golden Haven. 6 men in khaki uniforms and carrying clipboards filed out, led by a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses who moved with the fake authority of someone who enjoyed wielding small amounts of power. "Building inspection," he announced at the front desk, not bothering to look at the receptionist. "Immediate safety assessment required." Amani emerged from her office, her white blazer pristine, her movements deliberate despite the lingering soreness. "I wasn't notified of any scheduled inspection." The lead inspector barely glanced at her. "Complaint-driven inspection, ma'am. We received multiple reports of structural concerns." He flipped through his papers with exaggerated importance, particularly regarding the East Wing Foundation and fire suppression systems. "Multiple reports? Yesterday?" Amani kept her voice level. "How convenient." Deshawn appeared silently at her side, his military bearing obvious in his rigid posture. He slipped her a note. Klein's car across street. Unmarked. The inspectors spread out through the hotel like an invading army, disrupting guests and interrupting breakfast service. They took photos of every minor crack, every worn carpet edge, making a show of shaking their heads and muttering into their phones. Amani called Jaya immediately. "They're manufacturing violations," she said quietly into the phone. "I need you here." The lead inspector was examining the front desk with theatrical concern when Jaya Patel strode through the door 20 minutes later. Her high heels clicked against the marble floor like ammunition, her briefcase swinging with purpose. "I'll need to see your inspection authorization forms," Jaya announced, not bothering with pleasantries, "and documentation of these alleged complaints." The inspector straightened, his authority visibly deflating. "This is a routine." "Nothing about this is routine," Jaya cut him off. "Complaint-driven inspections require 24-hour notice under City Ordinance 47.3. I'm also curious about the timing, given yesterday's events." She pulled out her phone, snapping photos of the inspector's badges and vehicles. "I'm sure the federal civil rights investigation will be very interested in this coordinated harassment." The lead inspector's face reddened. "We're just doing our jobs." "No," Jaya replied coldly. "You're doing someone else's dirty work, and we'll find out whose." Through the plywood-covered window, Deshawn watched Officer Klein's unmarked car pull away from its surveillance spot. The inspectors huddled, whispered, then began packing up their equipment with obvious reluctance. "We'll be filing our report," the lead inspector muttered, avoiding eye contact. "And we'll be filing ours," Jaya responded pleasantly. After they left, Amani checked her watch. Time for her standing lunch with Aunt Lila. Some traditions couldn't be broken, especially not now. The small cafe 2 blocks away had been their meeting spot for years. Aunt Lila was already at their usual table, her silver hair gleaming, her presence drawing respectful nods from other diners. As a retired schoolteacher who'd educated half of Savannah's black professional class, she carried natural authority. "Child," Lila said, as Amani sat down, "you look tired." "I am tired," Amani admitted, letting some of her guard down. "They're coming at us from all angles now." Lila stirred her tea with careful precision. "Course they are. You scared them. Nothing more dangerous than a black woman who won't back down." She reached across the table, her fingers strong despite their age. "But that's exactly why you can't get tired. That's what they're counting on." "The inspectors are just the beginning," Lila finished. "They'll try code violations, health inspections, tax audits, same playbook they used on your daddy's generation. Different suits, same evil." Amani sipped her water, letting her mentor's words sink in. The weight of generational struggle pressed down, but somehow it felt like armor rather than burden. "They want the land," Lila continued. "Always have. Your daddy bought that building when they thought downtown was dead. Now it's gold, and they can't stand that we own a piece of it." "I won't sell," Amani said firmly. "Course you won't." Lila's smile was fierce. "You're going to make them choke on their own corruption." Their food arrived, shrimp and grits for Lila, salmon salad for Amani. They ate in comfortable silence until Amani's phone buzzed. Eddie Chen's name lit up the screen. "Ms. Rivers?" Eddie's voice was tight with excitement. "I've been following the money. Logan Shaw's personal accounts show monthly deposits from a company called Savco Holdings. Big deposits, starting the day after he was hired." Amani put the call on speaker so Lila could hear. "Savco's just a shell," Eddie continued. "But guess who's on the incorporation papers? Walter Reeve himself. The payments to Logan were kickbacks. He was their inside man." Lila's eyes narrowed. "The Lord may work in mysterious ways," she said softly, "but karma works right out in the open." After lunch, Amani and Aunt Lila drove straight to Jaya's downtown office. The space felt like a war room, with case files stacked high and a whiteboard covered in neat handwriting. Deshawn was already there, pacing by the window while Jaya typed furiously at her computer. "Eddie sent over Logan's bank records," Jaya said, without looking up. "The payments were clockwork, 5th of every month, $15,000. Deshawn stopped pacing. "That's almost double his regular salary." "Blood money," Aunt Lila muttered, settling into a leather chair. 30 pieces of silver to betray his own workplace." Amani stood at the whiteboard, studying Jaya's timeline. Red marks indicated each incident: the fake police calls, the brick, the surprise inspection. Below that, a growing list of properties recently sold to Savco Holdings. "Look at the pattern," she said, tapping the marker against her palm. "First comes the police harassment, then building inspections, then mysterious property damage." Her voice hardened. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore." Jaya swiveled in her chair. "Because they've never had to. Until now." She pulled up a spreadsheet. Eddie interviewed 3 other business owners from the historic district. All black-owned businesses, all faced similar harassment, all ended up selling to Savco within 6 months. "For pennies on the dollar," Deshawn added. "Mom, Miss Regina's soul food place? Remember how they shut her down over health code violations last year? Savco bought it a week later." Aunt Lila leaned forward. "That restaurant fed 3 generations. Her grandmother started it during segregation." Now it's a smoothie bar, Deshawn said bitterly. Amani's marker squeaked as she drew connecting lines. They target businesses with history, with meaning to our community, places that represent Black success. Success they can't control, Jaya agreed. She stood up, straightening her blazer. But here's what they didn't count on. Documentation. Eddie's interviews, the viral videos, Logan's bank records. We're building more than a case. We're exposing a system. Amani checked her watch. The community meeting starts in 2 hours. We need to show people this isn't just about Golden Haven. It's about all of us, Aunt Lila said firmly. By 7 that evening, Golden Haven's grand ballroom hummed with voices. Folding chairs filled quickly as people arrived. Reverby Taibi Fifus. Jackson from First Baptist, Mrs. Chen from the corner market, Mr. Washington, who owned the barber shop, 3 generations strong. Faces Amani had known all her life, plus newer allies drawn by the viral video of her arrest. Deshawn managed security, positioning trusted staff at every entrance. The bruises from his scuffle with police had faded, but his watchfulness hadn't. He noted every face, every movement, protecting his mother's vision like he'd once protected military convoys. Jaya set up a projector, displaying their evidence clearly. Bank records, property transfers, police call logs. The truth in black and white. When Amani stepped to the podium, the room hushed. Her face still showed faint marks from the arrest, but she stood straight, dignified, in a golden silk blouse. They thought arresting me would silence us, she began. Instead, it exposed their whole operation. This isn't about one hotel. It's about our right to own, to build, to stay. Heads nodded. Murmurs of agreement rippled. Savco Holdings isn't just buying buildings, she continued. They're trying to erase our history. But we're not done writing it. She gestured to Jaya, who advanced the slides. This is how they operate. First comes harassment, selective enforcement, surprise inspections, police calls. Then property damage they blame on crime in the area. Finally, they offer to buy you out for your own good. The crowd grew restless as they recognized the pattern. Mrs. Chen stood up. That's exactly what happened to my sister's restaurant. And my daddy's garage, called another voice. Aunt Lila rose slowly, commanding attention without effort. Some of you were my students, she began, her voice carrying decades of authority. I taught you about Reconstruction, about how they tried to push us out back then. This is the same fight in modern clothes. She moved to the front, standing beside Amani. But we have something they don't expect. Unity, evidence, and a whole lot of righteous anger. Her words shifted into a prayer that felt like a battle cry. Lord, give us strength to fight smart. Give us patience to fight long. And give us wisdom to fight together. Amen? Thundered the crowd. For the next hour, people shared stories, signed affidavits, joined committees. Church groups promised support. Shop owners offered meeting spaces. Retired teachers volunteered to document histories of threatened businesses. The room crackled with purpose. This is how we win, Jaya told Amani quietly. Not just in court, but in community. As the meeting wound down, people lingered in small groups, exchanging numbers and making plans. The energy had shifted from fear to determination. Deshawn supervised as elderly attendees were escorted safely to their cars. Through the lobby's remaining intact windows, Amani noticed a black SUV idling across the street, its engine purring in the humid night. The tinted passenger window rolled down just enough to reveal a shadowy outline before the vehicle accelerated away, its tires squealing against wet pavement. Morning sunlight painted the Savannah City Hall steps, golden as protesters gathered, their signs bobbing like flowers in a breeze. Justice for Golden Haven and Black Business Matters. Messages competed with chants that echoed off marble columns. News vans lined the curb, their satellite dishes reaching skyward. Amani climbed the steps beside Jaya, both women dressed in crisp suits that meant business. Deshaun flanked his mother's other side, scanning the crowd with military precision. The bruises on Amani's face had faded to yellowish shadows, but she'd chosen not to cover them with makeup. Let them see, she thought. Let them remember. Ready? Jaya asked, clutching her briefcase filled with evidence. Amani nodded, touching the small golden bell pin on her lapel, her late husband's legacy. Truth doesn't need rehearsal. Inside, the chamber buzzed with tension. City council members shuffled papers, avoiding eye contact. Councilman Reeves sat front and center, his usual swagger dampened by sweat at his temples. Behind him, Sergeant Heller and Officer Klein occupied the third row, both in civilian clothes but radiating cop energy. "Order," called Council President Matthews, gaveling the room to silence. "We're here to address serious allegations regarding the Urban Renewal Committee's enforcement practices." Jaya approached the podium first, her heels clicking against hardwood. She connected her laptop to the projector with practiced efficiency. The screen filled with a map dotted with red markers. These points represent black-owned businesses targeted for what the committee calls compliance sweeps in the past 18 months. She clicked forward. Now watch the overlay. Properties acquired by Savco Holdings. The dots aligned perfectly. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Savco Holdings, Jaya continued, lists its primary office as Suite 470 in the Whitman Building. Interesting, since that's also the location of Councilman Reeves' private law practice. Reeves' chair creaked as he shifted. Many businesses use that address. Indeed, Jaya's smile was razor-sharp, including shell companies that received millions in urban renewal funds, then purchased distressed properties at massive discounts. She produced a stack of bank records. "Would you like to explain these transfers, Councilman?" Before he could answer, she changed slides. Or perhaps Sergeant Heller can explain why his wife's consulting firm received monthly payments from those same accounts. Heller's face reddened. Klein stared at his shoes. Jaya's presentation continued methodically, each slide tightening the noose. Police call logs matched property acquisitions. Building inspection reports carried identical language despite different inspectors. Text messages between committee members discussed pushing out the troublemakers. When Amani took the podium, the room fell silent. Her voice carried clearly, measured but powerful. "I stand before you not just as a victim of police brutality, but as a witness to systematic corruption." She gestured to her face. "These marks will heal, but the damage to our community runs deeper." She described the pattern, the harassment, the false charges, the pressure to sell. "They didn't just attack my hotel. They attacked every black business owner's right to exist in this city." From the gallery, Aunt Lila nodded encouragement. Gloria dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Even some council members looked uncomfortable. "For decades, we've heard about urban renewal and revitalization," Amani continued. "Pretty words for ugly actions. They wanted my silence. I'll give them my story instead." Applause erupted. A council member tried to gavel it down, but failed. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled frantically. "The Golden Haven isn't just a hotel," Amani said over the noise. "It's proof that black excellence doesn't need permission to exist. It's a promise to every child who walks past. You can own something beautiful. You can build something lasting." She turned to face Reeve directly. "You thought arresting me would make me disappear. Instead, it made me impossible to ignore." More applause. This time, even the council president didn't try to stop it. Jaya resumed the podium, laying out specific charges: conspiracy, fraud, misuse of public funds. She requested a full federal investigation and immediate suspension of the Urban Renewal Committee's authority. The council moved to establish an emergency oversight panel. Reeves' attempts to object were drowned out by gallery noise. His face had gone from sweaty to ashen. Heller and Klein slipped out during the commotion. Deshawn tracked their exit, noting how they hunched like beaten dogs. As the session concluded, reporters swarmed. Cameras pushed close, microphones thrust forward. Amani answered questions with dignity, while Jaya handled the technical details. Will you file civil rights charges? What about the other affected businesses? Councilman Reeve, do you have a response? They pushed through the media scrum toward the exit. Outside, the protesters cheered. Someone started singing, "Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around." The crowd joined in. Aunt Lila appeared at Amani's elbow with a bottle of water. "You did your daddy proud today, child." "We're not done yet," Amani replied, but she smiled. Deshawn helped clear a path to their waiting car. The singing followed them down the steps. At the curb, Amani paused to wave at the crowd one last time. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. The message was brief but clear. "Nice speech. Check your gas line tonight." Evening shadows crept across the Golden Haven's marble floors as the day wound down. The usual dinner rush had been light. Many guests still at the council hearing or glued to news coverage. Deshawn moved through the kitchen, checking burners and storing leftovers, while humming an old gospel tune his grandmother taught him. "Good night, Mr. Rivers," called Maria, one of the line cooks, as she hung up her apron. "Night, Maria. See you tomorrow." Deshawn smiled, but his military instincts kept his senses alert. Victory at the hearing felt too easy. His mother's phone threat echoed in his mind. In the lobby, Gloria straightened magazines and fluffed throw pillows. Two other staff members, Jake from maintenance and Sarah from housekeeping, helped close up shop. The gentle tinkling of Gloria's cleaning cart provided familiar comfort. "Miss Amani sure showed them today," Gloria said proudly, adjusting a flower arrangement. "Lord, you should have seen those council members squirming." Deshawn nodded, scanning the security cameras on his tablet. Everything looked normal, but something felt off. The air seemed different. He paused, nostrils flaring. There it was, faint but distinctive. Gas. "Gloria," he said sharply, "do you smell that?" She sniffed, frowning. "Now that you mention it..." The explosion hit like a thunderclap. The east wing erupted in a fireball that shattered windows and sent debris flying. The blast knocked Deshawn off his feet. Smoke billowed. Emergency lights flashed as sprinklers hissed to life. "Everyone out!" Deshawn shouted, scrambling up. Through the thickening smoke, he saw Gloria sprawled near her cart, not moving. Jake lay crumpled by the front desk. Sarah struggled to stand, clutching her arm. Training kicked in. Deshawn rushed to Gloria first, checking her pulse. Steady. She was breathing, but unconscious. He hoisted her over his shoulder in a fireman's carry. "Sarah, can you walk?" She nodded, tears streaking her soot-stained face. "I think my arm's broken." "Head for the front door. I'll get Jake." Water poured from the sprinklers, turning the marble floors treacherous. Deshawn carefully made his way to the exit with Gloria. Outside, guests and neighbors gathered, pointing and shouting. He gently laid Gloria on the sidewalk. "Someone call 911, he ordered, though sirens already wailed in the distance. He sprinted back inside. Jake was starting to stir when Deshawn reached him. "Come on, brother. Let's move." He helped the dazed maintenance man to his feet, supporting him as they stumbled out through the cascading water. Amani's car screeched to a halt at the curb. She leaped out, still in her hearing suit, horror etched on her face as flames licked the night sky. "Is everyone out?" she demanded. "All staff accounted for," Deshawn reported. No guests in house. We were closing up. Emergency vehicles arrived in force. Fire trucks, ambulances, police. Paramedics swarmed the injured staff. Gloria regained consciousness, confused but alert. Sarah cradled her broken arm, while Jake got treated for smoke inhalation. Firefighters charged in with hoses, battling the inferno that consumed the East Wing. The blaze reflected in the hotel's golden windows, making them look like portals to hell. Amani stood straight-backed, watching her dream burn. Her expression wasn't defeated. It was carved from stone. Jaya arrived minutes later, taking in the scene with sharp eyes. "Fire marshal's already calling it suspicious," she said quietly. "Gas line was deliberately cut. Professional job." "They waited until the hearing," Amani replied, voice tight. "Made sure we were all distracted." A fire captain approached, helmet under his arm. "Ma'am, we've contained the blaze to the East Wing. Sprinkler system helped, but there's extensive damage. Our investigators will need access once it's fully out." "Of course." Amani's voice was steady, but Deshawn saw her hands trembling. Two insurance agents materialized, looking uncomfortable in suits among the emergency workers. They muttered about accelerants and prior threats while taking photos. The crowd grew as news vans arrived. Reporters thrust microphones forward, shouting questions. Jaya ran interference, keeping them back. "Mrs. Rivers, any comment on the explosion? Is this related to today's hearing? Will Golden Haven rebuild?" Deshawn watched his mother's face in the flashing emergency lights. She'd worn that same expression when his father died. Pain transformed into iron purpose. Gloria insisted on standing despite the paramedics' protests. She hobbled to Amani's side, water dripping from her uniform. "They think they can scare us away," Gloria said fiercely. "But we're family here. Family doesn't run." Amani squeezed her hand. Around them, hotel staff gathered. Kitchen workers, housekeepers, front desk clerks, all drawn by news of the explosion. They formed a circle around their owner, a wall of solidarity. The flames gradually died under the firefighters' assault. Smoke drifted into the Savannah night like lost ghosts. The elegant East Wing, with its ballroom and luxury suites, was a blackened skeleton. Amani's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, jaw tightening. Deshawn read the message over her shoulder. "Sell, or next time, we finish the job." 2 days after the explosion, yellow police tape still fluttered around the Golden Haven's East Wing. The morning sun couldn't hide the scorched walls or shattered windows. News vans clogged the street, their satellite dishes reaching skyward like metal sunflowers. Inside Jaya's downtown office, Amani sat at a gleaming conference table, surrounded by stacks of documents. Her tailored blazer couldn't hide the exhaustion in her shoulders, but her eyes burned with determination. "RICO laws were designed for mob bosses," Jaya explained, spreading papers across the table. "But they work just as well against corrupt officials. We prove a pattern of criminal enterprise, and the whole house of cards falls." "Pattern is right here," Deshawn said from his laptop station in the corner. His fingers flew across the keyboard, screens reflecting in his glasses. "Savco's network security is good, but military training taught me better. Look at this." He turned his screen. Complex financial diagrams filled the display, arrows connecting offshore accounts to familiar names. "There's our smoking gun." Jaya leaned forward. "Reeves been laundering development funds through shell companies in the Caymans. And look who else has their hand in the cookie jar." "Sergeant Heller," Amani's voice was ice. 5 separate accounts under his wife's maiden name. "That's not all." Eddie Chen walked in, laptop under his arm. Dark circles under his eyes suggested sleepless nights of investigation. "My sources just sent me something interesting." He pulled out a digital recorder and pressed play. The room filled with voices. These minority-owned businesses are holding up progress, Reeves' familiar drawl. We need more aggressive cleanup operations. My officers know how to apply pressure, Heller's voice. Health code violations, noise complaints, suspicious person reports. Death by 1,000 cuts. Just keep it quiet, a third voice, the police chief. Election season's coming. Eddie stopped the recording. 3 hours of strategy sessions. They're talking about systematic harassment of black business owners across 5 districts. Timing these leaks will be crucial, Jaya said, making notes. We release the financial data first, let them deny it, then hit them with the recordings when they're off balance. Deshawn's phone buzzed. He checked the message, eyebrows rising. Got another piece of the puzzle. Officer Rourke wants to talk. The female officer from my arrest, Amani asked, says she's been keeping records, dates, times, coded orders from Heller about target properties. Deshawn looked up. She sounds scared. She should be, Jaya said. Whistleblowers against police corruption tend to have short careers, but her testimony could be invaluable. Outside, a reporter's voice drifted up. Sources suggest the hotel explosion may be linked to a larger pattern of harassment against minority business owners. Amani walked to the window, watching the media circus below. They thought burning my hotel would silence us. Instead, they lit a spotlight. Social media's on fire, Eddie added, scrolling through his phone. Black business owners across 3 states are coming forward with similar stories. Your case broke the dam. Deshawn's computer chimed. Got another hit. Savco's internal emails mention something called Operation Clean Sweep. Started 6 months ago. Systematic targeting of minority-owned properties for acquisition. Cross-reference those dates with police incident reports, Jaya instructed. Build a timeline. Already on it. The pattern's clear as day. Sudden increases in patrol activity, code violations, harassment complaints, all within days of Savco marking a property for renewal. Amani's phone lit up with a text from Gloria. News crew trying to interview injured staff. What should we tell them? Nothing yet, Amani replied. We play this our way. Rourke wants to meet, Deshawn announced. Says she has body cam footage from the arrest that never made it into evidence. Jaya checked her watch. I can meet her in 30 minutes. Where? Diner on Montgomery. She's insisting on public but quiet. Smart woman, Eddie commented. Harder to make someone disappear in public. The room fell silent as they absorbed the stakes. These weren't just documents and recordings. They were ammunition in a war for justice. Be careful, Amani told Jaya. If they were willing to bomb my hotel? I've faced worse, Jaya assured her. In Chicago, I had a client whose evidence got 3 dirty cops convicted. Lived on my couch for a month while death threats poured in. Deshawn stood. I'll drive you. Better to have backup. The diner's parking lot was half full when they arrived. Officer Rourke sat in her personal car, not a patrol vehicle, nervously watching the entrance. She wore civilian clothes, a baseball cap pulled low. Jaya approached alone while Deshawn watched from their car. Rourke's hands shook as she reached into her glove compartment. She withdrew a small flash drive, labeled in neat handwriting. Body cam, lobby incident, uncut. Back in Jaya's office, they gathered around her desktop monitor. The flash drive's contents loaded, revealing crystal-clear footage from Officer Rourke's body cam. The timestamp showed 12:17 p.m. on that fateful day. Watch Heller carefully, Rourke had warned them. Around minute 3. The video began with the officers entering the hotel's gleaming lobby. Tourists scattered as they approached. Phones raised to record. The body cam captured Logan Shaw's smug expression as he pointed toward Amani. That's her. Shaw's voice dripped with manufactured concern. She's becoming aggressive. The footage showed Amani standing perfectly still, hands visible, voice steady. "I am the owner of this establishment. I can provide identification." Heller's phone buzzed in the video. The camera caught him glancing down at the screen. The message preview was clearly visible. From Logan Shaw. "Make it stick. Reeve wants this wrapped today." "There," Deshawn paused the video, pointing. "That's the smoking gun." Amani leaned closer, studying the frozen frame. He reads the message, then immediately escalates the situation. They continued watching. The footage showed what the viral videos hadn't caught. Heller discreetly nodding to Klein before the assault began. When Amani reached for her purse, Klein was already moving to grab her, proving the takedown was planned, not reactive. "Notice my position." Rourke's voice had trembled during their meeting. "I deliberately kept my camera running and angled. We're trained to obstruct footage during controversial arrests. I did the opposite." The video captured every moment of excessive force in high definition. The sound of Amani's face hitting the marble counter echoed through Jaya's office speakers. Deshawn's hands clenched into fists. "Easy." Amani touched her son's arm. "This is exactly what we needed." The footage continued through the arrest, documenting every ignored protest from witnesses. Hotel guests shouted that Amani was the owner. Gloria begged them to check her ID. None of it mattered. The officers were following a script. "Listen to their radio traffic," Jaya pointed out. They heard Heller's voice. "Subject secured, proceeding with transport per Protocol 6 Alpha." "That's not a real police code," Deshawn said. "No, it's not," Amani agreed. "But I bet it appears in other questionable arrests across the city." The video showed them forcing Amani into the cruise while Heller made a phone call. "Package secured. Location clear for follow-up." Within minutes, code enforcement vehicles appeared. The systematic nature of the operation was undeniable. "This wasn't just harassment," Jaya said, taking notes. "This was a military-style operation to seize property, create an incident, arrest the owner, then immediately begin finding code violations while they're detained." The footage ended with Rourke's camera capturing a final exchange between Heller and Logan Shaw. "Reeve will handle the paperwork tomorrow," Shaw said quietly. "She'll be too busy dealing with charges to fight the citations." "Send my regards to the councilman," Heller replied. "Tell him this one's on the house." Amani sat back, absorbing the implications. "How many others?" Deshawn pulled up his research. In the past year, 17 minority-owned businesses subjected to similar patterns. Police harassment, followed by code violations, followed by lowball offers from Savco Holdings. "And those are just the ones we know about," Jaya added. "Rourke says there's a whole playbook. They target owners who lack resources to fight back. Single proprietors, elderly owners, family businesses operating on thin margins. They never expected one of their targets to be a former civil rights investigator," Amani said quietly, "with a son who understands cybersecurity, and an attorney who specializes in RICO cases." "Rourke's testimony breaks this wide open," Jaya confirmed. "She can verify the coded language, identify other officers involved, confirm which properties were targeted. In exchange, she wants immunity from prosecution." "Give it to her," Amani said firmly. "She's the only one who showed any conscience that day." Deshawn's computer chimed with another alert. Eddie's source just confirmed 3 more shell companies linked to Savco, all with trails leading back to Reeve's office. "It's not just a corrupt cop or a crooked councilman," Amani realized. "It's an entire system. Police, code enforcement, city officials, developers, all working together to push black business owners out of downtown Savannah and replace them with luxury condos and boutique chains," Deshawn added bitterly. Jaya stood, grabbing her phone. "This is beyond local jurisdiction now. With RICO violations, civil rights crimes, and official corruption at this scale, we need federal involvement. She pulled up her contacts, finger hovering over the number for Georgia's Attorney General. The weight of what they were about to do filled the room. This wasn't just about one hotel owner's vindication anymore. This was about exposing years of systematic discrimination and corruption. "Make the call," Amani said, her voice firm. "They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds." Jaya nodded and dialed. After 2 rings, a familiar voice answered. "This is Assistant Attorney General Martinez." "Sarah, it's Jaya Patel. Remember that corruption case I mentioned last month? It just got bigger. Much bigger." She took a deep breath, looking at Amani and Deshawn. "We're bringing down a city." 2 weeks later, the City Hall chamber buzzed with anticipation. Camera crews jostled for position, while journalists filled every available seat. The morning sun streamed through tall windows, casting dramatic shadows across the packed room. Amani stood in the marble hallway, adjusting her crisp white suit. The bruises on her face had faded, but a small scar remained near her temple, a permanent reminder of that day at the hotel counter. In her hands, she held her late husband Marcus's prized possession, a gleaming brass bell that had graced the original Golden Haven's front desk for decades. "Ready?" Jaya appeared beside her, briefcase bulging with evidence files. "More than ready," Amani replied, running her fingers over the bell's smooth surface. "Marcus always said this bell represented service with dignity. Today, it represents justice." Inside the chamber, Councilman Reeve and Sergeant Heller sat at the defense table, their attorneys whispering urgently. Reeve maintained his politician's smile, but his leg bounced nervously under the table. Heller stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. A hush fell over the room as Amani entered. The click of her heels echoed against marble as she walked down the center aisle, head held high. She placed the golden bell on the witness table, a symbol of everything they had tried to take from her. "All rise," the clerk announced, as the Ethics Committee members filed in. Jaya approached the podium first, her voice clear and controlled. "What you're about to see isn't just about one incident at one hotel. This is about a systematic campaign to drive minority business owners out of downtown Savannah." She began methodically laying out the evidence. Spreadsheets showing Savco Holdings property acquisitions flashed on the screen, each one a minority-owned business targeted after police harassment. Bank records revealed payments flowing from shell companies to private accounts held by Reeve and Heller. "Protocol 6 Alpha," Jaya explained, playing audio clips from multiple police raids. "A code that appears nowhere in official police procedures, yet shows up repeatedly in arrests at minority-owned businesses before they're pressured to sell." Officer Rourke's testimony came next via video deposition. She detailed how the scheme worked: targeted harassment, manufactured citations, coordinated pressure from multiple city departments. The chamber grew tenser with each revelation. Reeve's attorney tried to object, claiming the evidence was circumstantial. But then Jaya played the body cam footage. The crystal-clear evidence of conspiracy left no room for doubt. Several committee members visibly recoiled at the sight of Amani's face being slammed into the counter. Throughout it all, Amani sat perfectly still, the golden bell beside her catching sunlight. She noticed Logan Shaw in the back row, shoulders slumped, already knowing his guilty plea had helped build this case. Just as Jaya prepared to call her first witness, movement at the front of the chamber drew everyone's attention. Mayor Charles Dawson rose from his seat in the front row, his presence commanding instant silence. "Madam Chairwoman," he said, his voice carrying authority. "Before we proceed, there's something this committee needs to understand." All eyes turned to the mayor as he moved to the center of the room. Dr. Rivers's arrest wasn't just a random act of discrimination. It was the catalyst we needed, the final piece of evidence in an investigation that's been ongoing for months. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Reeves' face drained of color. "Since January, Doctor. Rivers has been working with my office and state investigators," Dawson continued. "Her hotel's surveillance systems, her son's cyber expertise, and her own background in civil rights investigation helped us document this corruption from the inside." The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Journalists frantically typed on their phones. Photographers' cameras clicked rapidly, capturing the shocked expressions on every face. "When they assaulted her that day," Dawson said, gesturing to the body cam footage frozen on screen, "they didn't just attack a business owner. They attacked someone who had already compiled enough evidence to expose their entire operation." The mayor turned to face Amani, genuine respect in his voice. Dr. Rivers agreed to let that arrest happen, knowing it would force them to reveal their whole system. She chose to endure humiliation to protect other business owners from suffering the same fate. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Amani remained composed, though her hand tightened around the golden bell. This was the moment when her private pain transformed into public purpose. Suddenly, the heavy doors at the back of the chamber burst open. FBI agents in tactical gear poured in, led by a senior agent holding up a badge. "Councilman Walter Reeve," the agent's voice boomed. "Sergeant Vance Heller, you're under arrest for conspiracy, civil rights violations, and racketeering under the RICO statute." Chaos erupted. Reeve tried to stand but was quickly handcuffed. Heller attempted to reach for something under his jacket, but found himself face down on the table, agents securing his arms. In the back, 2 more agents moved to arrest the developers who had worked with Savco Holdings. Cameras flashed like strobe lights. Journalists shouted questions. The chairman banged his gavel uselessly as the room descended into pandemonium. Through it all, Amani remained seated, one hand resting on her golden bell, watching justice unfold in real time. Near the defense table, Reeve locked eyes with her as agents led him past. The man who had tried to steal her dignity now had none of his own. In that moment, Amani did something that cut deeper than any harsh word. She smiled, small and satisfied, then turned away dismissively as they led him out in handcuffs. The next morning dawned clear and bright over Savannah. The chaos at City Hall had dominated every news channel, but now a different kind of energy filled the air, one of renewal and vindication. At Golden Haven, the sound of construction echoed through the damaged East Wing. Workers in hard hats carefully removed charred debris, while others measured spaces for new drywall. The city's emergency reconstruction grant had come through overnight, and local contractors had offered discounted services in solidarity. Amani stood in the lobby, reviewing blueprints with Deshawn. The marble counter where she'd been assaulted was being replaced with elegant black granite. Her choice. No need to preserve painful memories. "Miss Rivers!" a familiar voice called out. Gloria James walked through the front door, her uniform pressed and perfect, despite her arm being in a sling from the explosion. Tears welled in her eyes as Amani embraced her. "Welcome home, Gloria," Amani said softly. "We saved your cleaning cart." Gloria dabbed at her eyes. "I knew you'd win. Even that day, when they—" She trailed off, unable to finish. "I just knew." Other staff members gathered around, many wearing Golden Haven Strong t-shirts that local supporters had printed. The hotel might be partially under construction, but their spirit remained unbroken. At 10 o'clock, news vans assembled outside for Amani's official statement. She chose to deliver it from the hotel steps, standing exactly where they'd dragged her out in handcuffs weeks before. Jaya stood supportively at her side. "Good morning," Amani began, her voice steady and clear. "First, I want to thank every person who stood with Golden Haven during these challenging times. Your support proved what I've always believed, that justice may be delayed, but it cannot be denied." Camera shutters clicked rapidly as she continued. This hotel was built on my late husband's dream of creating a space where everyone is treated with dignity. When certain individuals tried to destroy that dream, they didn't realize they were actually making it stronger. She gestured to the construction crews working behind her. Today, we begin rebuilding, not just walls and windows, but trust. The city's reconstruction grant and the overwhelming volunteer support show that Savannah's true heart beats with justice, not corruption. A reporter raised his hand. Dr. Rivers, how do you respond to Logan Shaw's public apology? Earlier that morning, the local news had aired Logan's recorded statement, part of his plea agreement. He'd looked pale and shaken, reading from a prepared script. I deeply regret my actions and bias against Dr. Rivers. I allowed prejudice and greed to override basic human decency. My collaboration with Councilman Reeves' scheme was inexcusable, and I accept full responsibility. Amani's response was measured. Apologies are meaningful when paired with changed behavior. Mr. Shaw's testimony helped expose the larger corruption, and that counts for something. Another reporter called out, "What about the officers involved?" Officer Klein and Sergeant Heller have been terminated and face criminal charges, Amani replied. Officer Rourke's cooperation with investigators was crucial to uncovering the truth. The police department is implementing new training protocols, and I've been invited to consult on their development. The questions continued, but Amani kept returning to themes of healing and progress. She announced that part of the settlement money would fund scholarships for minority business students, ensuring that future generations would have easier paths to ownership. By afternoon, the lobby was buzzing with activity. Volunteers sorted donated supplies while contractors installed new security systems. Gloria supervised from her rolling chair, making sure every detail met her exacting standards. Deshaun coordinated with the construction team, his military precision proving invaluable in managing the complex renovation schedule. He'd added extra cameras and reinforced windows. No one would catch Golden Haven vulnerable again. Local businesses sent food for the workers. Church groups arrived with homemade desserts. Senior citizens who'd supported Amani through the ordeal set up a refreshment station, serving sweet tea and sharing stories of their own battles against discrimination. Aunt Leela organized a prayer circle in the garden, their voices lifting in hymns that carried over the construction noise. Even some tourists stopped to join in, drawn by the spirit of community healing. As sunset approached, Amani took a moment alone in her office. On her desk sat the morning's paper with the headline, "Federal Charges for Former Councilman Reeve. Corruption Scheme Exposed. Multiple Arrests." Below it lay Logan's written apology letter, along with notification that the fired officer's appeals had been denied. A knock at her door revealed Jaya, smiling. They're ready for the big moment. Outside, a crowd had gathered in the growing dusk. The hotel's new sign had been installed, larger and brighter than before. Deshaun stood ready at the power switch, while Gloria held Amani's golden bell. Amani addressed the waiting crowd. When they tried to take this place, they didn't understand what it represents. Golden Haven isn't just a hotel. It's a symbol of dignity that can't be broken, of dreams that won't be denied. She nodded to Deshaun, who flipped the switch. The sign blazed to life, its golden letters gleaming against the darkening sky. Golden Haven, owned and protected. Gloria rang the bell, its clear tone ringing out across the street like a declaration of victory. Applause erupted from the crowd. Camera flashes captured the moment as Amani stood proudly beneath the glowing sign, its light reflecting in her eyes like a promise kept, a battle won, a legacy secured. 2 weeks after the sign lighting, Golden Haven's grand reopening day arrived with perfect Georgia weather. Morning sunlight streamed through the restored lobby windows, making the new black granite counter gleam. Fresh flowers filled crystal vases, their sweet scent mixing with the aroma of coffee from the newly installed cafe. The Mount Zion Baptist Church Gospel Choir arranged themselves on the curved staircase, their royal blue robes adding dignity to the restored space. Hotel staff, wearing crisp uniforms with golden pins, guided arriving guests to their places. Local news crews set up cameras, while national media representatives checked their microphones. Gloria James, now fully recovered, supervised final touches from her new domain. A corner cafe carved out of the renovated East Wing. The brass nameplate read, "Gloria's Corner Cafe," in elegant script. She adjusted table settings with her usual precision, pausing occasionally to wipe happy tears from her eyes. "Everything perfect, Gloria?" Deshawn asked, appearing beside her with a fresh pot of coffee. He'd insisted on personally training all cafe staff, wanting this tribute to Gloria to be flawless. "Better than perfect," she replied, straightening a napkin. "Never thought I'd see my name up there like that." The cafe's walls featured black and white photographs of longtime staff members and community leaders. Gloria's image held the center spot, a candid shot of her defending Amani during the arrest, her face fierce with protective love. By 10 o'clock, the lobby hummed with excitement. Aunt Lila held court near the entrance, greeting guests in a striking golden dress that matched the hotel's color scheme. Church mothers, community activists, and business leaders filled the space. Even some tourists who'd witnessed the original incident had returned to show support. Jaya Patel worked the room with professional grace, but her smile held extra warmth today. She'd received word that morning the Federal Appeals Court had upheld all RICO convictions. Reeve, Heller, and their conspirators would serve their full sentences. When she shared the news with Amani, both women had hugged fiercely, years of battle culminating in this final victory. Eddie Chen set up his recording equipment near the grand piano, preparing to capture the day's events for his final podcast episode. His series on Golden Haven had gone viral, bringing national attention to similar cases across the country. Listening to him test audio levels, snippets of his narration carried across the lobby. In the end, it wasn't just about a hotel. It was about dignity, about standing your ground when others try to steal your dreams. At 11 sharp, the gospel choir began to sing, "Victory is Mine." Their harmonies soared to the ceiling, filling every corner with jubilation. Guests swayed to the music, some raising their hands in praise, others wiping away tears. Amani emerged from her office, radiant in a white suit, with subtle gold threading. Deshawn stood at her right, while Aunt Lila took her left. Together, they approached the golden ribbon stretched across the main entrance. The choir's final note held as Amani addressed the crowd. "When my late husband and I bought this building 20 years ago, people said we were dreaming too big. When others tried to take it from us, they thought we'd give up that dream. But dreams built on love and justice don't die easily." She gestured to the gathered faces. "Every person here played a part in our victory. Every prayer, every protest, every act of solidarity proved that community is stronger than corruption. When they tried to shame us, you helped us stand taller. When they tried to silence us, you amplified our voice." Gloria stepped forward, carrying a velvet cushion that held the golden ceremonial scissors, the same scissors that Amani's husband had used 2 decades earlier at the first opening. Aunt Lila placed her hand over Amani's on the scissors handle, their shared grip symbolic of generations standing together. "Golden Haven isn't just a hotel," Amani continued. "It's a testament to what we can achieve when we refuse to back down, when we transform pain into power, when we stand united against injustice." The scissors flashed in the sunlight as they cut the ribbon. Applause thundered through the lobby as the choir launched into "Oh, Happy Day." Guests surged forward to hug Amani, shake hands with Deshawn, and congratulate Jaya. Gloria's Corner Cafe officially opened its doors, serving its signature golden-spiced coffee and honey butter biscuits. The recipe came from Gloria's grandmother, a former cook for Savannah's elite who'd never been allowed to own her own establishment. Now her granddaughter presided over a space that bore her family's culinary legacy. Eddie moved through the crowd, gathering final interviews for his podcast. His microphone captured snippets of joy, triumph, and vindication. When he reached Amani, his question was simple. "What does this moment mean to you?" She thought for a moment, then smiled. "It means that sometimes justice rings clear as a bell." The crowd gradually quieted as Amani moved toward the restored reception desk. There, mounted on a polished stand, hung the golden bell. Her husband's pride, their symbol of perseverance, now a testament to victory. She lifted it carefully, its weight familiar in her hands. The gathered crowd held their breath, phones raised to capture the moment. Deshawn stood proud beside his mother, while Aunt Leela dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. Gloria paused in serving coffee, her face glowing with satisfaction. Amani raised the bell, its surface catching the sunlight streaming through the windows. With one firm motion, she rang it, releasing a clear, pure tone that sang through the lobby. The sound seemed to carry all their struggles, their determination, their triumph in its resonance. The tone echoed through the crowd, touching each person who had stood with Golden Haven through its darkest days. In that crystalline ring, they heard victory. The celebration's energy faded with the setting sun, leaving Golden Haven's halls peacefully quiet. Display lights cast a warm glow across the polished floors, where, hours earlier, hundreds of feet had danced in celebration. The scent of Gloria's biscuits still lingered in the air, mixing with the sweetness of spent flower arrangements. In her office, Amani sat behind her desk, her white suit jacket draped over the chair. The day's triumph showed in the small smile that played across her lips as she sorted through the mountain of cards, letters, and notes that had poured in. Each one represented a voice of support, a hand reaching out to hold hers through the struggle. She opened an elegant cream envelope from the Baptist Women's Alliance, their words of praise making her chest swell with pride. Another came from a group of retired teachers who'd witnessed her arrest. They'd organized a scholarship in her name. A crayon drawing from Gloria's granddaughter showed the hotel in wobbly golden lines, stick figures holding hands around it. Deshawn had left an hour ago, insisting his mother get some rest, but Amani wanted to savor these moments. The quiet after victory felt sacred somehow. Her fingers traced the edge of a letter from a young law student who wrote that Golden Haven's story had inspired her to focus on civil rights law. The desk lamp cast a pool of warm light as she reached for another envelope, this one different from the others. Plain brown padded mailer, no return address, just Amani Rivers, typed in basic font. The weight felt odd, slightly heavy on one side. Her years as a civil rights investigator had taught her to notice such details. With careful fingers, she opened the seal. Inside, she found a single police body cam memory card in a plastic case. No note accompanied it. The card looked identical to the one Officer Rourke had provided, but the identification number was different. Amani's pulse quickened as she inserted the card into her laptop. The video player opened, showing footage from the day of her arrest. But this wasn't from any of the 3 officers she knew about. This camera angle was new, from someone standing slightly back, observing. The timestamp showed 20 minutes before the confrontation. The unknown officer's camera captured a private moment in the parking lot. Several figures huddled near a patrol car, their faces clear in the midday sun. Sergeant Heller was there, along with Officers Klein and Rourke. Then a voice off camera, calm and measured. "Make it look rough. She's more useful that way." The camera shifted, and Amani's breath caught. The speaker wore a crisp suit instead of a uniform, his silver hair neat, his smile practiced and political. The name tag on his jacket read Chief Dawson, the same man who, as mayor, had claimed to be her ally in exposing corruption. The footage continued, revealing Dawson giving detailed instructions about the upcoming arrest. "We need this to look bad enough to force her hand, but not so bad it backfires. When she breaks, Savco moves in, and everyone gets their cut." Amani's hands were steady as she saved the file to an encrypted folder. The pieces clicked into place. Dawson's careful positioning as a reformer, his perfectly timed investigation, the way he'd managed to emerge from the scandal looking like a hero. He hadn't just known about the corruption, he'd orchestrated it from the beginning. She removed the memory card and walked to her office safe, its new reinforced door another legacy of recent events. Inside, next to her most important documents, she placed the card in a secure case. Evidence, like justice, sometimes needed to wait for the right moment. "Justice never ends," she whispered, closing the safe with a solid click. "But this chapter does." The weight of this new knowledge settled on her shoulders, not as a burden, but as a reminder. Power rarely showed its true face at first glance. Still, tonight wasn't for new battles. Tonight was for honoring victories already won. Amani gathered her belongings, tucking the most meaningful cards into her purse to read again later. She switched off her desk lamp, letting moonlight from the window paint silver streaks across her office. The room held so many memories now, tears and triumphs, strategies planned, justice slowly built. In the hallway, she paused to straighten a photo, the one of Gloria standing fierce that day, loyalty personified. The image reminded her that courage came in many forms, and justice required all of them. The lobby spread before her, peaceful in its nighttime stillness. Moonlight played across the new granite counter where she'd once been brutally arrested. Now it stood as a symbol of resurrection, of wrongs made right. The space felt almost sacred in its emptiness, as if holding its breath between one chapter and the next. Her heels clicked softly across the floor as she approached the golden bell. Its surface caught the moonlight, transforming it into a beacon. This bell had seen it all, her husband's dream, their struggles, their victories. Now it would hold one more secret, one more truth waiting for its moment. Amani lifted the bell, its weight familiar and reassuring in her hands. With quiet determination, she rang it one final time. The pure note filled the lobby, bouncing off marble and glass, reaching into every corner where shadows once lurked. The sound carried triumph in its resonance, clear, strong, and victorious. Justice had been served. Not completely, not perfectly, but significantly. The ring faded slowly, leaving behind a silence full of promise. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, in this moment, victory was complete. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.